London is the capital of Great Britain. It's in the southeast of England on the River Thames. In the centre of the city is Buckingham Palace, the London home of the kings and queens of this country. And every day at Buckingham Palace there's a famous ceremony. We're watching the changing of the guard. There are always guardsmen, and policemen too, outside the palace. Every day a new guard of 30 guardsmen marches to the palace and takes the place of the old guard. This is one of the most popular sights for tourists in London. First, the band marches through the gates of the palace. The job of the police is to stop the tourists from following the guards. Then the rest of the new guard marches through the gates. The guardsmen wear traditional uniform, a red coat and a black helmet. The helmet is called a bearskin, and it's made of fur. London has many traditions, like the changing of the guard, and many sights for the tourist to see. Buckingham Palace is just one of them. If you follow the River Thames towards the sea, you'll come to Greenwich in southeast London. Here you can visit the Maritime Museum, a museum for ships and the sea. It was built in 1762 as a hospital for sailors. The sea has always been very important for Britain and for London because of trade. This old and beautiful ship is the Cutty Sark, a merchant ship that carried tea from China. She was the fastest merchant ship on the sea, and once she sailed from Australia to England in only 72 days. Today you see tourists on her decks, not sailors. You can get to Greenwich by bus or by train, but perhaps the best way is by boat. Many merchant ships sailed to London in the old days, but there were no proper docks for them until the end of the 1700s. St. Catherine's Dock was finished in 1828. In these buildings, traders stored ivory and marble, wine and spices from the East. Today, there are no merchant ships in St. Catherine's Dock, but it's a popular place for yachts and a museum for unusual boats. Very near St. Catherine's Dock is Tower Bridge. It opens when ships want to pass. The machinery for raising it is in the two towers. Once a bus was in the middle of the bridge when it started to open, but the driver didn't stop. He drove on just in time. The ancient Tower of London is on the north bank of the Thames, next to Tower Bridge. It was started by William the Conqueror, who invaded Britain in 1066. He built the tower to impress and frighten the English. It has a long and cruel history. It was once a prison for enemies of the king. People say the ghosts of the men and women who died in the tower still walk here at night. There are many buildings here, but the most important is the White Tower, which is the oldest. Its walls are 30 meters high. There's also a jewel house, which contains the famous crown jewels. The men who guard the tower and the crown jewels are the warders, or beefeaters. They can tell you everything about its history. Their clothes are the uniform of royal guards of the year 1500. As well as beefeaters, Other soldiers guard the tower. Guardsmen of a regiment of foot soldiers, the same regiment that guards Buckingham Palace, and they have their own ceremony on Tower Green. Sometimes you can see another regiment firing its guns. This happens on special occasions, like a royal birthday. Today, the tower no longer frightens Londoners, but the guns sometimes frighten visitors. St. Paul's Cathedral was built after the Great Fire of 1666. It stands in the heart of the city, the business centre of London. The architect was Sir Christopher Wren. It took him 35 years to finish St. Paul's. The cathedral is 110 metres high, from the floor to the top of the cross, and you can climb the 627 steps up to the dome. Wren designed St. Paul's to give a feeling of space and light. He built more than 50 churches after the fire, but this is his masterpiece. Inside the dome is the Whispering Gallery. If you whisper close to the wall on one side of the dome, you can be heard on the other side. St. Paul's has seen many important occasions, like the royal wedding of 1981, when Prince Charles and Princess Diana were married. And famous people are buried here. Sir Christopher Wren himself is buried in the floor under the dome. St. Paul's Cathedral is an island of peace in the noise and activity of one of the biggest financial centres in the world. Westminster lies on the north bank of the river to the west of the city. It's the political centre of the United Kingdom, the home of the British Parliament. The nation's leaders and the men and women who represent the British people meet and debate in the two Houses of Parliament, the House of Commons and the House of Lords. Next to Parliament is Westminster Abbey. Almost every coronation has happened here since William the Conqueror. And above Parliament rises London's famous clock tower, Big Ben. Its four white faces look north, south, east and west. But Big Ben isn't really the name of the clock. It's the name of the bell inside the clock. They say that one of the best ways to see London is from the top of a bus. So let's leave Parliament Square and go along Whitehall. On your left is the headquarters of the Royal Horse Guards. And Trafalgar Square is straight ahead. In the middle of Trafalgar Square is Nelson's Column. This commemorates the sea victory of Admiral Lord Nelson at Trafalgar in 1805. Nelson spent his life looking over the sea, and his statue also looks over a sea of pigeons. These pigeons are probably the fattest in the world. They're popular with the tourists, but unpopular with the people who look after the buildings. One of these is the National Gallery, home of many famous paintings. A short bus ride away from Trafalgar Square is Piccadilly Circus, where Eros, the Greek god of love, stands in the heart of London's West End. London is proud of her many green and open spaces, where the English countryside comes to the centre of the city. All the major parks were once royal gardens, but today they're here for everyone to enjoy. St James's Park, near Buckingham Palace, is London's oldest. It belonged to Henry VIII, the king who had 6 wives. In the park you can feed the swans, geese, ducks and other water birds that live near the lake. In Kensington Gardens stands the Albert Memorial, which Queen Victoria built in memory of her husband. Facing it is the Albert Hall, where the famous promenade concerts are held. One of the best times to visit London's parks is in the spring. At this time of the year, Regent's Park is a beautiful place of blossom and flowers. It's perhaps London's most elegant park, with its attractive gardens and lakes. And at any time of the year, you can visit the zoo, which has an aviary where birds can live in a natural environment, and about 6,000 animals, many of them born here in Regent's Park. But the zoo's most popular residents are, of course, the pandas. Pandas come from the mountains of southwest China, but there are very few of these wonderful creatures left in the world. Their main food is bamboo, and they're very fond of it. Shopping is as popular with visitors to London as sightseeing. 6 days a week, thousands of people come to Oxford Street in the West End to shop for clothes and visit the big stores like Marks and Spencer and Selfridges. The little streets off Oxford Street have their own attractions too. Here you'll find smaller shops, such as jewellers selling gold and silver, small boutiques selling the latest fashions, little antique shops where you can buy collector's items like silver matchboxes, and even smaller specialist shops. Hamleys of Regent Street is the place for children. It's one of the biggest toy shops in the world. And at Harrods of Knightsbridge, it's said that you can get anything from a piano to an elephant. As evening falls in London, shops close, but restaurants, cinemas and theatres open. London is famous for its theatres, and most of them are in the West End near Piccadilly Circus. You can see anything from a Shakespeare play to a modern musical. In the South Bank complex, on the other side of the Thames, there's classical music, art and cinema, as well as theatre. London is an attractive city with great character. It changes as the centuries pass, but its ceremonies and traditions stay the same. This film has shown you some of the things you can see and do in London. Why not come here and see it all for yourself?